Hey, all right. Hey, for this one, this drawing assignment is Among Us related. The game we all love to hate or love to love. I'm awful at it, but I mean, I still enjoy it. So I'm going to show you how to draw the little figure guys or gals, and then one of the attack modes. And then I'm going to show you how to color it using a few different types of mediums. So we'll do color pencil, we'll do marker, and then two different types of paint. So right out the gate, you just need something to write with. Let's get going. All right, we're going to start our drawing, and then we'll move into different ways to color it. So we'll do just kind of the normal one standing around first. And to start him, we're going to start with an oval. Literally, that's it. That's the visor. So that's the head. And we're going to go a little bit in from the very outermost edge, and we're going to start drawing our body. So I draw just kind of a curved line that comes right, not all the way over, but just a little bit over from the edge of our oval. And then that's the top of the head. And I'm going to follow it around all the way down to right about here. Right about here. There's no, I mean, you'll just kind of have to eyeball it for the length of this line. And then we'll draw one little stubby leg. And then I like to, before I draw the other leg, I actually like to come over here and draw the front, and then the other leg just kind of happens. So I'm just making sure that this is kind of lined up right about here, and it is. I'll draw a straight line down, draw my other leg. Oop, my leg broke. And then there's a line right there for where the two legs come together. And then we cannot forget his backpack. That is it. Okay, that's the simple one. Now we're going to do one of the attack modes, and it's the stinger one. I'm going to show you how to do that one. So for the stinger, the mouth is like all the way open, and he's like hinged in half. So his visor, which is where we're starting again, is going to be kind of pointing up like this. So I'm going to draw my oval, right, for my visor. And then this right here is going to be his big open mouth. So it's kind of pointing off at an angle up top. And just like I did over here, then I'm going to go a little ways in, and I'm going to kind of draw, I keep wanting to say sculpt. I'm going to draw the top of the head, right, and then that's going to come down. And I'm actually going to wait to finish this back part because if you do the mouth first, it kind of makes that a little bit easier. So then I'm going to go right over here, and we're going to draw just a little bitty line, just a little straight line, and then a giant line like here. Bam, just like that. And actually, that's a little too giant. So I'm going to erase it. Don't make it quite so giant. Not quite so giant. Right about here. And then the bottom jaw is actually completely flat. It's flat like that. So then from here, you'll complete the legs. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go right down here. Draw one leg. I'll draw the line right here. Draw the other leg. All right, see them come together, see them come together. And I'm actually going to, right up here, this line I drew it a little bit too long. Okay. So this is really the only truly tricky part is making this hinge. So I wrap the line around just like that. Okay, so the line kind of starts at the top of the visor and then goes all the way down here. And I'm going to continue just a little bit. And then we have a fold. So I'm going to go right here. Bada bing, bada boom. And then I'll bring that leg right up. All right. A couple more things. We got to do the backpack. So on this attack move, the backpack is kind of folded in half. So I'm going to go right about here. Draw, I don't know, an L, I guess. That's the best way to describe that. And then I'm going to finish that backpack right down here. See, it's folded in half like he is. And then the finishing touches, of course, the stinger. Boom, boom, boom. And then on this one, they have teeth. So they have 3 teeth. Bam, bam, bam. All right, so those are the basics. That's how to draw them. Now let's look at how to add color using 4 different types of medium. All right, up first. marker, marker, marker. So I'm going to show you how to color these little guys with marker. They are not very complicated. In fact, I have a big old example right here. Bam! So they don't have a ton of color, but if you look, they do have a little bit of shading in a couple of key spots. So I'm going to show you how to do that with marker. So here are the colors you need. You need the color that you want your character to be. You need black, you need a light blue, preferably, but you can also just use any blue, and then you need gray. Okay, so to start, you are going to color the entire body and backpack the color that you picked for your character. All right, once you have them colored with your base color, let's go ahead and fill in the visor. Now on the visor, the only thing you have to pay attention to is this white spot, right? So there's gonna be kind of an oval towards the top of the visor that you're not gonna want to color in, a color. So how I do that is I usually draw it with my marker, just like that, and then I'll go ahead and do it over here. That way I know exactly where to not color. And then I'll just fill it in really quickly. Just like that. All right, so actually we're going to get the shadow effect, right, on his body and his visor. We are going to use gray, and we're actually going to use gray right over the top of, sorry, a little bit of glare, right over the top of the marker that we already colored, right? So on the visor, it is a curved surface, so that means the shadow is going to be curved. And it is kind of just a swoopy shape right here that takes up this corner of the visor. So I drew that line, and now I'm just going straight over the blue with my gray. And you see, that took care of the shadow for us. And so we're going to do the same thing over the top of the red. So on the body, we've got shadow on the legs, kind of this curved line, and then we've got some shadow on the backpack. So I'm going to take my marker, get out of the way. Right here on the backpack, I'm going to start there. So I drew the curve line, and then just right over the top of that red marker, I add gray, right? So the gray is just see-through enough to where you can still see the red back there. All right, and then now, let me draw the line for the body, shading right there, and now I'll fill it in, just right over the top. Right over the top. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, so let's add the shadow on this one. This one looks just a little bit different, but it's still very, 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 very similar. So same thing on the visor. Shadow is still the same on the visor. So I drew that curved line right here. And then on this kill move, there is a little bit of shadow right around the back, on the folds, and then along the legs, yeah? And then also the backpack. So the backpack is actually shaded a lot, very similar to that. So just kind of pick a spot a little way down. And that is the shading on that attack move, all right? The very last thing we have to do, all of these Among Us characters have a nice thick black background. So I'm going to cat coloring marker, and I'm going to get my black marker. And now I'm just going to go over and outline my drawing. So this is the time that I'll get the stinger and the teeth on the other one too. The outline really makes these feel like the characters from the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you color the Among Us characters using marker. Up next, we will do color pencil. All right, color pencil. So for the color pencil portion, you really only need 3 colors. So you need a light blue color for the visor, then you need the color for your character, and then just a black color pencil. You can also do really dark gray, or even just regular old pencil, but I had a black one handy. So for this one, we're going to start with our character color, so whatever that color is, red, blue, green, yellow, whatever, and we're going to color all of the character in just kind of like a really light base color. And I'm going to speed it up. So then when I'm done doing that, I'm going to color the visor using the light blue. But just remember on the visor that there's a white circle, so you're going to see me drawing that. So here we go. Okay, once you have your base layers down, now we're going to start adding some layers to get the shadow. So remember the shadow, because we're dealing with curved surfaces, so we're not going to have any straight lines. On the visor, I'm going to take, now I've got my black color pencil or just regular pencil, whichever you want to use, and I'm going to very, very lightly on the visor with the black kind of sketch out my little, like my shadow line, my shading line, all right? And once I've got that sketched out, then I'm going to take that black or my pencil and I'm going to very, very lightly just go right over that blue in my visor. Lightly, lightly, lightly. Okay, the key is to not press too hard because you still kind of want to see some of the blue shining through. And so then I'm going to go do it on the other side. So just lightly sketch it and then fill it in. Again, I'm not pressing very hard at all. I want to still see some of that blue underneath there. So. All right, and color pencils do best when they are layered over one another. So I'm actually going to pick up my blue again, and I'm just going to kind of lightly go over all of it again, even over the top of that black that I added. Really, it's gray. But, here. Layering color pencils does a lot of things. One, it makes your drawings look a little more advanced. And it takes away, you know, when you're coloring in one spot, it kind of takes away those directional marks. And then I'm going to do one more time lightly over that black area. Layer, 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 layer. Okay, perfect. So now with the black pencil, now I'm going to do the shadow on the body. So if you recall, remember on the guy that's just standing there, it goes kind of like here, and then it swoops down and then comes right back up. So I'm going to draw that line, and then I'm actually going to draw the line over here on the backpack too. Just kind of a little line to show me where I'm going. And then right in that area that's going to be shaded or have a little bit of shadow, then I'm going to add the black. And I'm just coloring it right over the red that I already used. All right, we are ready to add the outline. So on this one, since I had my markers handy, I'm going to use marker to outline them. Remember, the Among Us characters have that thick black outline. But if you don't want to mix color pencil and marker, then you can do this step in color pencil too. But we are just going to now go through and outline. Oh, I cut his leg off. our characters. There we go. Here. Boom, boom. All right, there is colored pencil right here. So the next one we're going to do is tempera paint. It's more closer to acrylic paint, tempera paint. So get your brushes and let's go. Okay, we are going to paint. So I have tempera paint, which I've got in these little squeezy tubes. So tempera paint is different than watercolor in that you don't have to have water to actually activate it, and you don't really need to have water on your brush to use it. So the colors that we're going to need are your character color. So whatever color your Among Us guy is, I chose purple. Then you need white, black, and then just a normal old blue. Now we are going to have to do a little bit of mixing on this one just because remember we've got the shadow and then we've got the visor. So let's actually start with the visor. So the visor is mostly a light blue. So we're going to make a light blue color, and I'm just going to paint both of the visors, both of the bodies at the same time. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue and get a little bit of white. Now, blue is a very, 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 very strong color. So whenever you're mixing, it takes just a little. See how much white I'm having to add. Once you get a really nice light blue color, this is for the visor. That's pretty good. All right, make sure you have the right type of brush. So I'm going to use a round brush, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint the visor. Now, remember on the visor, there's a white spot. So just like when we did the color pencil or marker, the very first thing I'm going to do is kind of paint around where that white spot's going to be. That way I know, right? Just like that. And so then the rest, I'm going to fill in the visor with light blue. Be careful to stay inside the lines. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to go do the other one side. So same thing. Kind of leave my little white spot so I know. And then I'm going to paint the rest of the visor in that light blue color. Just like so. Okay, so I am actually now with a dirty brush and in my already mixed blue paint, I need to make the shadow color for this, for the visor. And the shadow color really is just this light blue with a touch of black. So I'm going to take, again, I just have a dirty brush. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to literally just add just a tiny bit of black. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to add it to my blue. And I don't know if you can tell, but see, that is just a little bit, and see how dark that made that. So with black paint, a little goes such a long way. So just be very, very careful as you mix. But the key to getting this color right is it just needs to be a darker shade of that blue. So if you look here, I've got my original blue color mix right here, and then I've got the one where I added black. That actually looks pretty good, and you can kind of see how that's going to look on the paper because you can see on the palette. So I've got that gray color on my brush now, and just like I did with the color pencil, I'm going to kind of sculpt out how the shadow looks. So it is a curved line that comes just right about there, okay? And the paint underneath is still a little wet, so, and that's absolutely okay, because we're putting a darker color over a lighter color. So it's not gonna cause us any real grief. All right, just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I got my brush with that little bit darker gray color. I'll kind of paint the line that I'm going to go off of, and then I'll fill it up. Just like that. All right, boom. So we're actually done with the blue now. I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush right here with tempera paint. It just takes a little bit of water. And then a little paper towel to dry it off. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I need to paint the body of my character, all right? So I'm just going to paint it the straight color that I have. So I have purple. So whatever color you've got, you're just going to completely paint it solid, all right? I'll speed it up. All right, once you have got your character, all right, once you have got your characters painted with their base color, I accidentally rinsed my brush, but I shouldn't have, because you can just use a dirty old brush for this next step. All right, so the next step is now we need to make our shadow color for the body of our character. And for that, it's just whatever color you selected for your character. So mine's purple. It's just that color and a very, very, very small amount of black. Remember when we were adding black to the blue for the visor? Same rules apply. So just make sure that you are not adding too much black. All right, too much black. So mine's purple, so it's going to make, it's kind of dark on the camera, but it's going to make kind of a plum color. And again, the key to making sure that you have the right color is it's supposed to be a shadow color. So it needs to be, I mean, obviously darker than your character color. Okay, so I have my color mixed right here. I don't need a ton of this color. I've got a lot of it on my brush. And then just like with the color pencil and marker, I'm going to kind of sculpt out where the shadow goes. So I'm going to take a paintbrush and start laying it in. All right, I got the shadow done. I am bummed about that. Accidents happen. That's why we practice. Okay, so then from here, we got to add the black outline. You can do this if you're at home. You can do this with like a Sharpie if you want, but I'm going to do it in paint just to keep it consistent. So I have got a nice round brush, and I'm going to finish these off by adding the black outline. So I'm just going to go straight into the black paint and get it done. All right, there we go. We are all done. So it's a little shiny because the paint is still wet, but you can see our Among Us characters here with the visor and the shading. The final method is watercolor paint. So I'm going to rinse my brushes and swap out the type of paint, and we'll get it done. All right, now we're going to move on to our last demo, which is watercolor. So I just have my simple little watercolor set here. Now to do this, to do the Among Us in watercolor, we're going to have to let it dry. We'll do one layer and then we'll let it dry. And then we'll actually finish out with a marker, just like a regular old Crayola marker on this one. So first, we need to kind of wake up our watercolor. I haven't used these in a while. So I am going to get a little bit of red, We need red or whatever character color you want. I'm going to make my characters red. So blue, purple, green, yellow, all of those are fine. You'll need blue too, regardless of if you're going to paint your guy blue, you also need blue. And then just a little bit of black. So I put just a little bit of water, and I'm actually going to flip this around. So I've got the tray right here. All right, the very first thing is I am going to paint the visors. I'm going to paint the visors, and I'm going to do a really light blue. So I've got a little bit of blue, and I've got it over here on my palette. So we don't have white. So to make a light blue color, we just make sure we have plenty of water in there. And just like I did on the other kind, I got a little sponge on there, I'm going to paint around that white spot, right? The reflector spot. And then I'm going to fill the rest in with watercolor paint. There we go. Boom. Let's go over here on the other one. Okay. Paint our circle. Just like that. All right. Now, we need to let this dry for a hot minute because we're going to be painting right up next to here. And if you've ever painted with watercolor before, if you touch a wet brush or a wet color to this blue while it is still wet like this, it'll mix and it'll turn purple since we're doing red. So I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to let this sit and dry for just a minute. All right, this is dry enough. It's dry enough. I mean, it's still got a little bit of moisture on the paper, but it's not so wet that it's going to cause us any problems. So now I'm going to paint my character whatever color I chose, right? So if you're choosing something other than red, then obviously you're going to pick red here, not red here, sorry. But I picked red. So I got a little bit of water on my brush. Watercolor loves water, so make sure you have a little bit of water on your brush, and then I'm going to paint both of the bodies the color that I chose. So we have got now just this kind of a solid painting, a solid coat of our character color. We've got to let it dry. So I'm going to let this hang out for a second, and then we'll add our finishing, our final layer, and then the finishing touches. Alrighty. This is dry enough for us to continue. There's a couple of wet spots you can see here, but we're actually going to paint right over those. But again, if you're doing this at home, make sure that you let this dry, because if you do this next step on top of a wet layer, you're going to see that it's going to mix and it's going to kind of, make it a little fuzzy, and that's not what we want for this one. So we need to make our shadow color. So the shadow color, just like when we did tempera, is going to be the base color. So either our blue for our visor or our character color plus a very small amount of black. So I'm going to mix just a little bit more blue. I'll do the visor first. And then just a little bit of black watercolor paint. It does not take very much. I cannot stress that enough. Just a little bit, little bitty. Okay, and then once you've got your, your blue, your darker blue, then we're going to start adding the shadow. So, like I did with pencil, I'm going to paint the line that's going to be for my shadow. And then I'll fill it in. So I did the visor first. Just like that. Boom, boom, boom. Then we'll do it on this side too. So I'm using a round brush on this one because I want something that comes to a nice point. The flat brushes don't really come to a point, so they're kind of hard to use when you're doing, kind of small spots. All right, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to rinse my brush because I'm changing color. And now I need to mix the body, the shade color for the body. So I did red again, so whatever color you pick, I'm going to get a little bit of red on my palette. And then tiny bit of black, like a little. That black will overpower any color, so just start small. Start small. All right, and then once you've got your shadow color, then let's do it. So I'm going to go right up here. About like that. I'll paint it in. Don't forget his backpack. Alrighty, now we have our shadow color. We need to let this dry because we cannot color marker over the top of wet paint. But that's all the painting we have to do. So I'm going to let this sit for a second and dry, and then I'm going to trace and give it that, that iconic, nice, thick black outline. Alrighty, this is dry enough. I'm going to use like a Sharpie marker. I think earlier I mentioned using, you can just also just use like a Crayola marker. Those are absolutely okay. And then I am going to go and outline my characters. And we now have our watercolor Among Us character. So we have now done Among Us 4 different ways. I don't know which one your favorite is, but personally, I like the color pencil one. I also like the watercolor one just because I like watercolor. So I hope that you enjoyed this drawing tutorial, and I cannot wait to see your projects.